So if you could make a prediction and then, look out across the world and go, okay, if we were to do the perfect balance between technology and humanity, what would that look like to you?
Wow, the perfect balance. Well, I think that AI has become a tool for speeding things up a little bit, but I think it would just still have, there would be more, I think there would just be more real life interactions. And there would, obviously we need the technology. It's moving at Godspeed. It's just moving so fast. But I think the perfect world would have much more groups, or whether they're on Zoom or whether they're on anything, of 10,000 people in the same room feeling the energy of each other.
Welcome to Unlocking Commerce and Business. I'm Connie Davis. Like a lighthouse cutting through fog, this marketplace of voices illuminates where commerce systems break down and what's already working to repair them. We go deep into communities, exploring where pain hides behind financial systems, uncovering extraction patterns in relationships, blocks in money movement, and barriers creating economic instability for vulnerable populations. From survivors of economic abuse to system innovators, these conversations don't just diagnose, they point toward trauma-informed, human-centered solutions. Essential listening for collaborators, partners, funders, and change-makers building regenerative alternatives. Welcome to the era of restorative commerce. Now let's get into today's conversation. Well, hello and welcome to Unlocking Commerce and Business. I'm Connie Davis. I am a sovereign creator myself, a temperament expert, and your guide to understanding the hidden patterns that really shape how we create, trade, and build value in the world. And I talk about that all the time, that commerce is an exchange of value. But today we're going to go deeper into a territory that most business podcasts sometimes don't touch. We talk a lot about procedures and standard operating procedures and marketing and growth and all of those great things, but we don't always talk about the dysfunction that comes up in business. And it's not as a character flaw. It's not something to be ashamed of, but it is this hidden force that can disrupt an entrepreneurial journey, and sometimes in ways that people never see. So today, my guest is Tammy Vincent, and I'm so excited to have her on because as we connected and we got to know one another's work and our fields of expertise, there's a really beautiful synergy that comes to the surface as we were getting to know each other. And I thought, why not come on and talk about something that really kind of mirrors into our inner world of entrepreneurialism and the way that sometimes it gets in the way for how we negotiate with clients or how we ask for business, the sale, all of the things that comes into bringing money and flowing commerce through our business. It can be a reflection of the very relationship that we have with scarcity or abundance or dysfunction that showed up in childhood. And we don't always think that we're bringing all those hairy monsters with us into our business, but we absolutely do sometimes. So Tammy is here. We're going to have a conversation about the value exchange and when dysfunction or trauma even gets involved in that exchange. So, Tammy, tell me a little bit about the work that you've done over your lifetime and what brought you to this period of time in this chapter, which is just amazing in the work that you're doing.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me, Connie. I appreciate it. And I love being here. So I actually got started in the work I'm doing now because I'm going to be flat honest. I failed at so many other things and I didn't know why. So I would get to points in whatever I was doing where I would just literally plateau and I couldn't go any farther. I couldn't do anything. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And after a couple failed opportunities, I thought, I got to figure this out. So I was also in the middle of my own healing journey from growing up with two very aggressive alcoholic parents, I guess you could say. My mother was an alcoholic and a drug addict. My father was what we call the functioning alcoholic of the family. But I didn't understand the patterns that had followed me into life. And I wasn't until I really started on my healing journey that I started going, oh my goodness, this is why I do this. This is why I just literally stop myself. I sabotage everything I do. I'm not confident. I'm not stepping out as my true self. And so in that, I discovered, wow, after 30 years of this journey, I thought it doesn't have to take people 30 years to learn that these patterns did follow them into adulthood, and there are things you can do about them. So now I work with people on different aspects of all of the trauma-informed care, but a lot of it is around the business and around why we just can't really become our true, what we're capable of, and the patterns that kind of develop that and why. That's the fact.
Oh, amazing. And so and you're working out, do you work globally or do you work kind of locally? What's your kind of radius of service?
My radius of service is really anything. Most of my clients are globally just because it's all done via Zoom, but I also do a lot of energetic stuff that is more fun to do locally. I speak locally. I do a lot of holistic modalities, I guess you can say. I love helping people get off medicine. Like, I have a broad spectrum of what I do because I feel like children of dysfunction or adult children of dysfunction not only have the mindset blocks and the patterns that go along with it, but they also have a lot of the physiological effects, the gut issues, the anxiety, the heartburn, all of those physiological things. So most of that is done, or a lot of that is done locally. So
Oh,
both.
well, thank you for being here. I know you have a huge busy schedule getting ready for your upcoming show, which we'll talk about at the latter part of the episode. But I did put together just a few areas where I thought we could bring out some value between the two of us for our audience and really talk about how this disrupts the entrepreneur's path and journey. And I'm an entrepreneur, so are you, and we've both had some exchanges of stories that I think will touch some of the community that's listening. I know that you do a lot of work, as you said, with adults that are dealing with dysfunction, trauma that might have started in childhood. That's certainly crossed my path in the work that I do from a for-profit or a nonprofit side, working deep with the trauma community and what we call vulnerable people. And there's a lot of vulnerability in general in humans, right? I mean, that's just part of the human journey. But when you work with maybe entrepreneurs that are clients going through the kind of the dysfunction patterns, what are some of the most common patterns that you see showing up in how they run their business, or how those patterns, you know, that maybe are like as old as 20, 30 years, as you said, start kind of overriding the normal business process of running a business?
I think one of the biggest ones is the self-sabotaging, and it's the getting to a point where you're on the brink of success, you're on the brink of doing something absolutely amazing, and then you do something to blow it. And a lot of us do that. You get ready to go. I realized I was doing that when I was up for my very first promotion, and it was supposed to be a really good promotion. And I was super excited about it. And literally the thought of getting up on stage and accepting an award in front of, 800 people was so much more than I can handle that I told them I didn't want the promotion. And they're like,
Man.
what do I mean, and I was only, 30 years old at the time, but I'm like, what the heck am I doing? But all I kept running through my head was, oh my gosh, this is going to mean I'm going to have to talk in front of people. I'm going to have to be out there. I'm going to have to tell them my story. I'm going to have to, just whatever it was. And it was terrifying to me. And when you grow up in that survival mode, you're not in success mode to begin with, but you are also in that feeling of just being big and being seen is so incredibly scary, and it's dangerous. So you're feeling dangerous in your body. And I think that is the biggest one, is that you literally nip it in the bud as soon as you get close. And oh my gosh, I've been so close. But the reasons that, that I look at it and I blow it and or back away, it's just that fear of being seen. And like you said, that vulnerability.
Yeah. And belief is such a powerful thing, and it can go positive and work in your favor, or it can absolutely make you believe that you are the worst, unworthy, undeserving, person out there trying to create something, and you literally sabotage the path ahead. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, no, I think that's a good one. And I think what you talked to a little bit about is really important between just emotional awareness. And I speak about emotional awareness, and that's sometimes just so hard for individuals to grant themselves the space and the time to reflect on what am I feeling? Where did it come from? How long has it been sitting there? And how active is it in my active day to day? So what have you seen, or what kind of tips and tools do you share with your clients? Maybe do you want to share a couple?
Yes. One of the biggest things is I tell people first, you got to feel it in your body. Your mind, you can lie to your mind can lie to you and it can actually convince you what's going on, but your body will never, ever, ever lie to you. So I tell them first, I think we talked about it right before I came on here, is really, regulating before you strategize. So it's like feeling in your body where you're at. Are you nervous? Are you upset? Are you angry? And you feel it in your body. When you get up to give that presentation, your body does not know whether you're a 6-year-old standing in front of your father getting ready to get whooped, or you're in a boardroom getting ready to give a presentation. So you feel all of those feelings, and they're the same. So I tell people, just kind of feel it, and then before you do anything, try to release it. Talk to yourself. Always take 60 seconds. I say, if not more. If it takes more, take more. But just to try to calm that system down, that nervous system, calming it down. You've got a part of that brain, your amygdala, easy for me to say, amygdala, and it doesn't know. It doesn't know the present versus the past versus anything. It just knows that it's feeling fear and it's trying to keep you safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And naming those fears for ourselves gives us space to kind of see it, accept it, figure out if it's real, and then proceed. And, it's a really good segue into my second question and thought, where success can sometimes feel dangerous. And you talked about that in your promotion story, and you literally passed up a promotion because it felt dangerous to go out and do a thing in front of other people. And, as we start thinking about how many times have I felt that I'm getting close to something that's outside of my comfort zone, where I'm growing, I'm kind of intentionally trying to grow, but then that whole sea of thought comes back up, the storm rises back up inside, and it creates this kind of push pull between the entrepreneur and the person that was the version before they were trying to be an entrepreneur, right? So I see it all the time. We start building momentum, we got their foot on the gas pedal, things are finally trying to work. Money is a circulation of supply, and you have to circulate it. You have to give to receive, and you have to receive to give. And
Right.
visibility is increasing out there, and we're being asked to put videos like this and podcasts and share our voice and our knowledge and our expertise. And for many of us who are introverts versus extroverts, that feels very different. So, what are you kind of looking for when you talk to a client about when it feels more dangerous to our nervous system for success, or what's happening in those moments? And, how do they get themselves out of staying stuck or struggling?
A lot of times it's just literally, like you said, going back and figuring out why. Where did this emotion come from? Like, if you're sitting there and, like, my example of not wanting to go up on stage, it's like, why? Why did I not want to go up on stage? So I had to kind of go through that. Well, every time I was loud, I was told what I said didn't matter, that that what I had to say wasn't important. Or if I said something wrong, I was going to get ostracized or I was going to get punished. So you really have to kind of analyze and figure out exactly where that came from. And then you have to untangle it. You have to, whether it's journaling it out. I mean, there's so many different ways, and, affirmations. If I get even the slightest little knot in my stomach, or I don't anymore, but actually I do. If I go to give a speech or something to 600 people, of course you're going to be a little nervous, but I can just say, Tammy, these people love me. They love you. You're amazing. You're doing great. This feeling is excitement, not fear. How you talk yourself out of it, or you journal yourself out of it. And there's many, many different ways, like the breathing exercises and everything like that. But you got to know where it's coming from. You got to figure out whether it's doing that timeline exercises where you're going back and going, okay, where's the first time I actually felt this feeling?
Yeah.
When did I feel this?
When did you feel that? And then did you lock yourself up? And that's a big part of, a lot of the times people go, why do you talk about business and emotions together? And my whole premise is that they go hand in hand. You don't even do business with another person unless you feel a sense of safety and trust. And that vibrationally comes into your field of awareness. You feel that, your body feels it before you start doing business with someone. We try to vibe with the people that, we love their brands, we love their mission, we love how, the conversation flows. So yeah, we're going to give up money, which is something of value, and invest that in whatever product or service that they're exchanging with us. So that is the whole point of commerce. But what you're describing is the vulnerability to the feelings that go behind and in and around and all of the nooks and crannies of exchange.
And also just the fact that when you have grown up in that kind of chaotic, distrustful environment, you really never learn to trust yourself. And that's another big part of the self-sabotage is, you're used to the self-doubt. You're used to second guessing yourself. You're used to waiting for external permission, like from somebody to say, oh, it's okay, Tammy, you can do this. And it feels unsafe to just step out and do it yourself. So a lot of times that's where, comes in that procrastination. Like you're like, oh, it's got to be absolutely perfect because people are going to judge me and people are not going to like it. And it's just really looking for way more than you feel the confidence and feel the trust in yourself to have. And I think that's a big part of it too. You don't trust yourself at all.
Right. Right. And but you know that there's something out there that your gifts and talents can solve in the world. And that's a big part of what business is about. So let's talk a little bit about this pain to purpose journey that most entrepreneurs get into. And they want to take what they've learned and they turn it into, well, I know that there's other people like that out there that have experienced something like me, and I can help them with it. So what kind of really successful examples? Do you have a story in mind of one of your clients that have really just kind of broke through that glass ceiling of comfort zone into success that you'd like to share with us?
So I have a client who, when she came to me, she was so funny. She's like, Tammy, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. She was literally like, I'm 47 years old. I've hit every job I get to. I hit this ceiling where I'm just like, I can't do anymore. I cannot do anymore. And we worked together. We got through, we worked probably together for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then it was like finally, she made some major changes in her life because she realized that pretty much every relationship in her life, whether it was her house, her kids, her jobs, her bosses, whatever it was all so trauma based. And it was all just, everything was those reactive methods. It was literally, she was like walking on eggshells her entire life, and it was funny. After about a year and a half, it's like she literally had taken her boss's job. Yeah, it was literally, she had like 2 or 3 promotions, and she finally said to me, she's like, I don't know how to put it. I've gotten out of my own way. Like, she goes, that's the only way to describe it. I got out of my own way. And I said, in what ways? And she's just like, I wasn't afraid to live. I wasn't afraid to get up in front of, 300 people and talk and talk up to my board of directors. And she goes, nothing was fear-based. It was all based on alignment. And, I finally started to be able to ask myself, is this for my best good? And if it wasn't for my best good, I didn't do it. And if it was for my best good, I didn't care what I had to do to get there. Where it wasn't, she said before, it was like I was so hypervigilant and so afraid of the repercussions of doing what I knew I was capable of doing. And she said, and once I let go of that, and I asked her, I said, well, what was the turning moment? She goes, I don't know. I think it was just a bunch of little moments and tiny moments. And, when I would have these little breakthroughs and we would celebrate them together. And then she's like, and it used to make me kind of mad, but also happy at the same time. Because you always ended it with, what next?
Right. Right. More, please. Yeah.
More, please. Like, you're capable, you got it all. But she literally went from, I don't even know what her roles and positions and the titles were, but she was like second in the company after a year and a half.
I
And
love those. Those are such great celebration stories too.
It was beautiful. And then a lot of the other small ones, I work, energetically. I do like a frequency scan with people, and I absolutely love that part of it's kind of taking the intuition. You and I are probably the same way. If you talk to someone for 30 minutes, you can intuitively go, okay, this is what she needs and this is what we're going to do, and I don't know if it's going to take a day or a year to get there, but then I run this frequency scan that literally tests for like 171,000 different frequencies of emotions and chakras and meridians. And it's like, then I hand her this big report and she's like, oh yeah, that's what we just talked about. So it's like a great starting point, but those are the small wins because you can just grab one thing and you can go, let's work on this. Let's work on this. And it's the same, it's kind of, I always say it puts the tangible to intuition together.
It does. And, let's drill into that a little bit because, there oftentimes you get into a corporate space or a business space and we think that we have to keep them separate. We think that we have to be professional, machine-like over here in the field of business, the movement of money. But we're using words in business that have to do with trust, buying behavior, a connection with your customers, being able to resonate with a valid product, a product that actually meets the needs of a community or a customer base, and we're targeting a specific customer pain point or problem. All of those words that I just used have to do with emotion, have to do with behavior and feeling. So how can we keep them separate? And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things that I appreciate about women in business. And women in business have been natural nurturers of a marketplace and natural builders of relationships because we do that in our homes. And there was a report that I wrote for my nonprofit, actually, that was about this unsung powerhouse that we are in the community. So let's talk a little bit about the rising of female entrepreneurs, because I think that they're bringing a balance back to the business community that we haven't seen probably for a few decades. What are your thoughts
Oh,
on that?
agree 100% because they always say, people will say, the past, they used to say, oh, that business is not going to do well because it's run on emotion. That business is not going to do well because of this and that. And the emotion was kind of like, and I feel like that's why there weren't as many women entrepreneurs because it was that stigma of that. But now I look at it and I go, you know what? Every business, especially a male run business, and I know this sounds terrible, but they need to have trauma informed leadership training. Because just like you said, it's the words we use. It's how we talk to people. So if women are going in, I mean, it is known now that if you go in and you ask somebody, what can I do for you today? Or what do you need today versus what's wrong with you today? 180 flip in their mentality, their mind, their entire day. So the production level of just being trauma informed, and I don't want to say women are by inherently trauma informed, but they are more emotional. So they do have a more compassionate. And I mean, I love going to companies and talking about trauma informed leadership. And it's not about giving everybody what they want and bowing down to the weak. And it's not about any of that. It's about just learning how to shift the narrative to be a little more compassionate and a little more human, and that you will get a whole lot more productivity out of someone.
Tammy, I'm so glad you mentioned that because a big part of the work, and I spent, 30 years in the banking and payments space. So you talk about something that's very transactional in nature. And over the last 5 or 6 years, I have been doing deep work in the trauma community, advocating for trauma-informed technology because we've gotten so automated and we've gotten really great at moving information from point A to point B and then C and all the way to Z, right? We got some really complex systems out there across all of our systems, whether it's health and finance and money or agriculture to even food production. It's all automated, which is great. Marketing though has always stayed very emotional based, right? And the customer sentiment, and that's really great, but we still have these very transactional systems behind that. And as we advocate for technology that becomes more trauma informed, we need to make sure that the people that are developing the systems of the future are just as trauma informed as the leadership in the companies that are running them. And
Yes.
so it's a huge part of the advocacy. The way that I'm fusing emotions and commerce together is to challenge those transactional thinkers, where money changes hands and we've got horrible things like dysfunction, abuse, and trauma going on in our communities, that we're not going to get to those healing centered communities if we don't shift some of the systems that are being developed today. And AI is a big one. Blockchain is another one. I always talk about this fusion of humans and technology because we're the ones that are going to keep the humanity in the technology.
Yes. And there's absolutely, when they talk about with the pandemic and everybody losing that connection, and I said, now we need that connection more than anything. I said, even on a Zoom, you can't reach over and put your hand on someone's shoulder on a Zoom. And I know even though it's still personal, you and I are talking and it's still not like we're in the same room together, no matter what they say. So yeah, the more you can keep the human aspect in it, the better. And the more you can, like I said, having a traumatic childhood and bringing those patterns into the world and into your adulthood is not the odd number. It is now the majority of people. We are all have something, no matter how good your life was. You did not grow up and not get a little bit scathed in something. So, and not everybody knows that it's, that's the thing with a chaotic, traumatic childhood is you think it's your norm. So you don't know sometimes that you're even affected by it. So the more we can change, like I said, the verbiage, and we can change the human connection portion of it. And like you said, bring the technology into that, into understanding that 3 out of 4 of us most likely are a little trauma reactive.
Yeah. And there's so much going on. There's so many signals moving at like lightning speed across social platforms, conversations that are happening on Facebook that are black and white, but there's human emotion behind what those words are saying. And those words are like little word spells that land in our field of awareness and how we process emotions differently for every single person. So one person could read a comment and be like, oh, that's no big deal. They were just joking. Or someone else who has maybe trauma or has, different ways of processing or interpreting that language might feel completely traumatized, like they've been. And that's where cyberbullying comes in. And, there's all of these I call unconscious behaviors of not being aware of what comes out of our mouth. And it comes down to intention behind what we were trying to say.
It is so true. And it's funny because my husband always goes, why do you always talk into your Facebook Messenger? Why don't you just text? And I said, because honestly, they hear me. They hear me when I'm talking. It's not just words. I said, because like you said, somebody can interpret it totally different. You don't read emotion behind printed word. I can read the same words and people don't understand some of the little things like the word but. The word but is very damaging. When you say, I love you, but I don't like when you do this. What is your brain here? I don't like when you do this. So it's like if you could have heard the emotion in the tone of the I love you. It's a different world we live in.
Yeah. So if you could make a prediction and then, look out across the world and go, okay, if we were to do the perfect balance between technology and humanity, what would that look like to you?
Oh, wow. The perfect balance. Well, I think that AI has become a beautiful a tool for speeding things up a little bit, but I think it would just still have there would be more. I think there would just be more real life interactions. And there would obviously, we need the technology. It's moving at Godspeed. It's just moving so fast. But I think the perfect world would have much more groups, or whether they're on Zoom or whether they're on anything, of 10,000 people in the same room feeling the energy of each other and the positive energy. Cause I think that's huge. So I think it would literally, I don't know how to really put it in words, but it would be the light speed, Godspeed, or whatever of technology and advancement with emphasis put on the fact that we still need to hear the human voice, the authentic human voice. I
I
don't know how to
love
put that in
that.
words.
No, I feel that. And that's, the next thing I was going to say is just, using technology like we're doing right now, and you sense that that person's kind of dipping in their energy level, or you feel some kind of an emotion comes through. What do you suggest that we can all do a little bit more of in that video screen when our cameras are on to express that empathy or compassion?
I think we need to smile more, because when we smile more, the people on the other side cannot help but smile, and you are putting just that positive energy into the world. But I also think we need to, I think one of the biggest things in this world, honestly, right now, is I think people need to have people's undivided attention. So when you are doing something, if you are on a Zoom call, you're actually, I mean, I'm looking at my dog walking by, and I'm doing stuff like that, and that is normal, but just looking at them and letting them know that you are hearing them, that you are seeing them, and that you are with them, because that is what people don't feel. They don't feel that they're being listened to, heard, validated, seen. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just, eye contact, look you dead in the face, and you're down here, of course, and you're literally in that little black hole, but looking at you and being like, Connie, I hear you. I understand.
I love that, because I feel that there is a lack of that presence that you're talking about. That's really the call back to where we separate from the machine-like behavior that we all get into, our execution to-do lists and all of that. And it brings that light back up. And that's what I wanted to talk about. The last thing is you have this really incredible event that's coming up in December. You want to tell us a little bit about this Radiant Women's Wellness Weekend? Because I'm so excited to join you there, but I want the
Oh, yes.
audience to hear a little bit more what you got going on.
Yes. So it's Connie, and I'm super excited. Connie's going to come be there as a speaker. Super excited about that. But it's called the Radiant Women Wellness Weekend, and it is in Cocoa, Florida, December 6th and 7th in Cocoa Village, Florida. And we have 15 or 16 different speakers, all health and wellness. So it's all health and wellness. And we have like 23 different vendors. We have Reiki masters coming, and acupuncturists, and all kinds of fun things, just to get women together to let them feel energized. I always tell people, if you learn one new thing a day, it makes your world a little brighter. But to get into a room for, from 10 to 7, Saturday and Sunday, first of all, the amount of positive energy that's going to be going through that place gives me goosebumps as we speak right now. But just to so much knowledge, people don't know what they don't know. And that's my mission, is to educate and to make people aware, because some people don't know there's a better something out there. Some people don't know that they don't have to be stuck the way they are. So this is just awareness. I have a doula coming. I have so many different people from different walks of life and just different experiences, just to bring it together and to celebrate and to get to know each other. I'm just super excited.
Oh, I'm excited for it too. I think it's reminds me of the original marketplace. And as I focus on the past, the present, and the future of money, money, lights us up when we have the right resources and tools to do the amazing things as women that we want to do. And a lot of that goes back into the household. It goes into our families and our loved ones. And the light gets a little bit dim though when those resources are low. So that's a big part of, how I fuse things together, where, we can have all the emotional storms, and then it just gets compounded when we don't have the right resources and tools to move our business from point A to point B. And so, that's a kind of a fusion of my little message as a sneak peek, but I'm so excited about the women that you're going to have in the room, the marketplace that's coming back together, and in such a beautiful place. So, how do you want us to help you get are you selling tickets, or what's the next step
Yeah,
there?
the tickets, it's not very it's fairly inexpensive. I want everybody to be able to come. It's $10 a day. So
Oh,
you can
goodness.
get them. Yeah, you can get them on the website, and I'm sure you'll probably put it in the show notes, but it's radiantwomenwellness.com, or you can go to tammyvincent.com shop, and the tickets are right there. So we make it pretty easy to get them. You can buy a 1-day ticket, 2-day ticket. I mean, it's just going to be so much fun. And I love that you said bringing the money message, because that is one of the messages that we need to spread to women, is that it doesn't matter where you are or anything else. Doesn't matter what your past was. you have the innate ability and the deserving to have as much as you want. God made us an abundant world. I mean, like, I want like people to see like, oh, wow. I mean, sometimes people go, and I don't want to be that person that says, well, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But it's the fact of life. I don't know how many people throughout my life told me you'll never be more than this, because that sentence ought to be eliminated from the world. But, there's a lot of stories of here I was and here I am. And I want people to know that everybody's worthy to have that. So that's one of the other things.
They absolutely are. And there's so many superhumans with super intelligence out there trying to do amazing things. And my mission is to ensure that the systems don't get in their way and that we can build systems. We're the ones building the systems in the first place. So why would we make something be something that is a barrier for other people? So, I'm advocating for women to get involved in blockchain, in technology, in AI. We can actually help make those systems more balanced by getting involved. And so those are, that's my tech geek coming out, but love talking about it all. And I really appreciate having you come on and talk about some of the common barriers and blocks that get in the way of the entrepreneur journey. So do you have any closing thoughts for the audience? Any, recommendations or final tips?
The only thing I can say is that dig deep and know that no matter what happened in your past and no matter what kind of chaos you went through, people always say, you could become a new you. You're not becoming a new you. You are going back to the you that you were born before life got tainted. And you were born this beautiful, amazing, virtuous, joyous creature. And we all have that in us. So we need to stop looking outside and just start looking inside, because it's all there. All the confidence, all the strength, all the beauty, everything is all inside of you right this second.
Love that. Tammy, thank you so much for being on the show with me. I really appreciate you and the energy that you bring and the vibrance and the radiance that we're going to celebrate coming up in December. So thanks again for being here. For those of you that have tuned in, thank you for being here. Please share this episode with other entrepreneurs, especially if you're on that journey and maybe have experienced some of the self-sabotaging behaviors that we all get into. We all get into our little pity parties, or, all those negative nanny kind of narratives that happen in our heads. But just know that you're not alone. And there are many, many people out there, superhumans, that are trying to do things to lift you up. So thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, and share this podcast. And we will be back soon with more Unlocking Commerce. Thank you for listening to Unlocking Commerce and Business. If this conversation resonated, here's what you can do. Subscribe for weekly conversations with survivors, innovators, and change makers, building regenerative alternatives to extractive commerce. Share this episode with collaborators, partners, funders, and change makers in your network. The people ready for restorative commerce need to hear these voices. Drop a comment below. Tell us what patterns you're recognizing or what solutions you're building. We read every one. Commerce is everywhere, and healing extraction patterns inside our communities creates regenerative commerce outside. Like a lighthouse, we're here, exploring and cutting through fog, pointing toward what works. Welcome to the era of restorative commerce. Until next time, explore courageously, build sovereignly. You are the source and store of value. This is Connie Davis signing off. Thank you for being here.